Hello everyone, welcome back. We are going to continue on with what we did last time with material design in Xaml. I'm figuring more bug bashing tonight and see how far along we can get. There is one other thing. One of the, I'll say, past contributors who's done a bunch of work on the library has a new PR open specifically for enhancing the demo application. So I figured I would start there and see the screenshots that he's posted of it look pretty cool. So I figured we would take a look at that, get it merged, and then I want to continue hacking away on some of the bugs for the current milestone just to try and get those things done and out the door. So let's take a look. Poof. So for anybody who is playing along at home, the material design repository. And then, so this guy here, there's a couple things kind of being bundled into here, and I haven't spent much time looking at it. I gave it a cursory glance a little bit earlier today and said, that's cool, and then moved right along. So it's kind of cool, the layout here. There's a bit of a theme picker. I'm almost, we'll get into my thoughts on it. We'll get into my thoughts on it in just a minute. But there's a couple changes here. So this is the demo app, so don't care. The more interesting one is this guy here. So this is actually doing a rename of the brush. And I think what I want to do is actually propose that we, so let's start with this. Can we put back the style, how about we do it this way? Just to avoid breaking backwards compatibility, can we put back the old style key as well? And I will flag it to be removed in the 5.0 release. Just because my next release is going to be a minor revision, not a major revision, and deleting a style is definitely a breaking change. So, and then just to be clear what I am proposing, because sometimes picture's worth 1,000 words, we're going to suggest that we put this guy back in, but we're actually going to base it on this and just be done. So start a review. So this will leave, oh, hang on, that didn't indent very nicely. Let's put the same indent. When I put in suggestions, I try to make them such that the author can just hit the accept and be done with it. So that's pretty cool. Material design, raise secondary light button. So let's see, secondary light, raised accent button. Oh, hang on. Is that the exact? Material design, raised accent button. Raised accent button. Oh, it's already there. My comment is meaningless. So we are going to delete that. Because there it is right there. And it looks pretty much identical to what I would expect. That's perfect. So I just want to make sure on all these ones that are deleted that it's only showing a deletion because they got moved. Yeah, so that one just got moved. Let's check this one. Make that a little bigger for everybody. So there's that one there. So cool. So no styles are actually being removed. They just kind of got reorganized, which is fine. That is perfect. I think what I'm going to do though is thanks for keeping the old keys in there. I'm going to flag these for removal in the release. Spell checker fail. Okay, we'll leave that in there. It's not really a comment of things to fix. So this is really just building out all of the ones So this is something that I've been considering, and I don't think I'm going to change it here. This is perfectly fine. This matches the naming scheme. But something for the 5.0 release that I've been wanting to consider is a slightly different naming scheme to all of these things. For example, right now, all of the styles start with material design, and then there's not necessarily a very prescriptive or intuitive naming scheme for everything else after this. I'm sort of envisioning something akin to Ma apps where it's very clear what the naming scheme is. That way it's a little bit easier for discovery as well when people want to find out, hey, what are all of the button styles that you have, right? You material design dot, and again, spitball on this, don't know for sure. Material design dot control name dot control name, or something to that effect, such that they are a little bit more easier to find rather than just typing them in. IntelliSense goes a long way to kind of mitigate this, because you just do your static resource, type in the word button, and find all the things that have button in the name. Okay, not great, right? If there was a little bit more organization to it. Now, obviously, that's going to change all the keys of all the styles and be a major breaking change. And before doing that, I kind of want to offer people an option. And if I go through and do that, I might offer a resource dictionary, not necessarily distributed with the NuGet package, but just as a shim that people could choose to incorporate. So that way, if you want to pull that into your package so that you could just get up and running quick with the latest 5.0 release without needing to worry about those breaking changes, and have a shim that just kind of forwards everything appropriately, that would be one option. I think that would be a nice touch. Okay, so this paper button. So the fact that the cursor is being set is a little interesting to me. I'm going to just do that as a note to come back and look at it. All of those look fine. The only reason I say cursor is interesting is usually it's best. This is one of those things that within the theming library, in many cases, setting the cursor is unexpected behavior. Typically, people expect that to follow whatever they've set in their app. And so my usual principle has been the library should be hands off and say, cursor's not our domain, have at it. I think these ones here, oh, it didn't grab I got to select it by like this way. This one's a, let's see, text element. So the only very subtle difference here is this is using the base type rather than the derived type. So we can look at that here in the code here in just a second. Just going to go through and check some of these things out. This is also one thing that I've wanted to standardize on is because the library uses multiple methods for specifying thicknesses, whether they be spaces or commas. I'm a comma guy myself. The original author of this library is a space guy. To each his own. I just feel like the library should have one and stick with it. I would be willing to change my preferences in exchange for the library to be consistent. Really what that comes down to is there's some XAML formatter extensions we can pull in that will ensure that, like, for example, all your XAML elements are properly indented. Everything is like attribute aligned and whatnot. So little things like that just to make it a little bit nicer. And I think that would be a worthwhile investment. Okay, so it's pretty simple. So I want to look up I've been using the material design icons for a ton of stuff. But what I want to do here is look specifically at this, because it's using the name paper button, and I'm wondering if that's the right methodology to it. I know that was explicitly called out in the description. So this isn't bad. These are all just paper buttons. The paper button has some default styles. It has the paper and the body brush. I'm just wondering if there is a better name for this. Let's see here. Anatomy. It's not likely to call out that kind of a thing per se, because all of the types of buttons that they call out, there's the contained button, the outline button, and the text button, which are names for buttons in this library, line up with the previous version of Material Design, not the latest. And that's something else I'd like to change. Again, total breaking change for everybody. It's going to be brutal. But I would like to get this library's identifiers in sync with the latest Material Design one. I think that would make things go a lot smoother. Let's see. I don't think this is even gonna... If I search for paper, because I'm pretty sure paper is one of those pieces that is not how paper works. Not something I ever thought I would need to have explained to me. Physical properties of paper. Are not treated as material. Yeah, so this is really a color type thing for the button. So it really is a contained button with a different color. And this is why I kind of want to get around to having a defined naming scheme for the styles. This will work because this lines up with how the rest of the styles are named. I just don't like it. Okay, so let's go all my other projects. Okay, so I want to go the pull request. Show me pull request. Oh yes, also, in case anyone missed it, version 7.7 of GitKraken has dropped. Woot woot. So, GitKraken fans. More importantly, one of the cool new features, search pull requests. Love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. For example, boom, find the one for the demo app. No thinking involved. No thinking involved. Let's see, add remote and checkout. It's probably going to be, let's see, RS master, because I've already got a local master branch. When I check out the master from his remote, I need to make sure that I give it a different name so it doesn't conflict with the master branch that I have locally. But there it is. So let's fire this guy up, and I am interested in taking a look at, because I didn't review the code for the demo app per se, because this is one of those things that's easier to review while running it. There were build errors. Of course there were. What did I do wrong? I'm sorry, what? Well, that's just embarrassing. So this will be fun. Apparently, I do not have the .NET Framework SDK installed anymore. I will mention something on my Visual Studio installer. You will note I am down to just the 2022 preview on this machine. So I have gone all in on VS 2022. It is awesome. I'm loving it. So much so that I uninstalled 2019, and apparently when I did so, I killed the. It was the 452 SDK that I need, right? Yeah. 452 targeting pack. That's what I want. Pretty please install. And I'm just going to shut this guy down real quick while that installs. And we will circle back over here for just a moment, and we'll look at while that's going. I'm gonna put you off where I can keep an eye on you, and let's just take a look at this. So designer height change, not a big deal. And so toggle button, what is this doing? Is checked true. Oh, buttons enabled. So you can test the disabled state. Got it. That is rather convenient. Well, that was easy. Let's go. Let's do it. I actually really like having that. I do wonder if some of these things need to be refactored on the demo app to be a little bit more global, because some of these things, like having this nice little enable feature, kind of nice to have across all of them. Okay, so let's try this again. Conveniently, you'll note how fast that installer was. There's been a lot of performance work that has gone into the VS 2022 stuff. It is awesome. One thing I'll point out to people, if you install 2022, you don't have all the preview features on by default. You do need to go Tools, Options, and come into these preview features and tick the boxes next to all the cool stuff that you want. So key ones that I would recommend for people right out the gate. New icons, I'm loving them. Go for it. The live preview is awesome. Xaml preview features, absolutely awesome. The added IntelliSense and the auto-generating of commands and view models. Mwah. Install right away. I think I like the new dark theme. It's cosmetic. I think I like it. Hard to tell. It's little stuff, but it's kind of nice. The rich code navigation, absolutely love that. Same with the go-to and the VS search right up here. Awesome. Love that. Very much love these two performance ones for prioritize performance and load projects faster. Absolutely amazing. The speed at which some of the bigger projects that I pull open load up is incredibly noticeable. For example, my material design examples repo, where there's something like 80 some odd projects. You want to see it load a bunch of projects really fast? Clone that solution and fire it up. It is noticeably faster, significantly noticeably faster on that repo. So that's awesome. So and then there's other stuff. Oh, IntelliCode. Love IntelliCode. So have to turn that one on. And then this out of process load. For the most part, this seems to work really well. The only thing I've noticed is it's a little too fast at times. It seems to allow you to fire up a solution, hit F5, and then F5, when it goes to launch, fails because the dependency hasn't been loaded and built yet. So it seems like there's some timing thing with maybe like previously built DLLs, something, but it's not a big deal. You just press F5 a second time. I'm okay with that. Okay, back to what we were doing. Buttons page. Something like that. Okay, so this guy here. Oh, I like this. I like these buttons. Oh, I like this. The little outline around it. Oh, I like that. So, standard. So this is standard because by default, this is going to follow my system theme, and my system is in dark theme. The magical incantation for anybody wanting to know how to do this, if it's not apparent, is on your theming resource dictionary that you bring in. The base theme can either be set to dark theme, light theme, or inherit system. So if you set it to inherit, just make sure that you test your app both in dark and light theme to make sure everything looks good, and that you've got proper contrast and whatnot, because that does mean that you are giving up that control to your end user, which is great for the end user, but it also means that you now have to make sure your colors look good two ways, not just one. So, but I like that. I like these. So what's the difference here? Outline secondary button. Paper secondary. Ah, so that's the big difference. The big difference is whether this uses the paper brush here versus not. Okay, I can get on board with that. And then inverted. I'm wondering why those don't change. Oh, because those are using the same brush there. Interesting. Okay. So you'll note I just flipped my thing to light theme, right? And so these things are now going to track light theme, and so now I want to look at them in standard. It's interesting that they default to having just a hair of a shadow. Given that there's not a lot of precedence, I think that shadow aligns with this button here, which is fine. I think that works. It just caught me off guard because I was tracking them with these ones down below that have none. But I kind of like it. So wait, what is flat? Oh, I got you. Raised. Okay, so they track with the raised ones. Okay, cool. Cool, cool, cool. I don't expect that to do much. I think we probably want to drop. I don't know how useful this is. Curious what this code behind the scenes is doing. So let's take a quick look. Oh, that's right. This is pure XAML. So what is that thing bound to? Color zone mode. Let's see. Oh, that's clever. So he's using the object data provider to just call enum get values. I gotcha. I gotcha. Get color zone modes. And then this is setting that guy there is being bound into the combo box, and then there's got to be somewhere else where that somebody else has got to be using that. Oh, unless it's bound directly to the combo box. Ah, look at that. There it is. Okay, so there's a color zone here being bound into that. Trying to decide how useful that is. Trying to decide if that's useful or just adding noise to the screen, because is it worth checking all of these? I think it's good to check inverted and standard, which is effectively light and dark. But I've already got that light dark toggle here. So I'm not sure how valuable it is elsewhere. I think I'm going to suggest that we sack it. And actually, I wanted to test the enabled too. This is great. I do wonder if this would be nice to be something that got included higher up. Test, let's see, dark and light theme. Let's see, and then I want to call out that toggle that was up here. Up under the toggle. So I think we'll leave that in. The rest of this I'm pretty okay with. This is awesome work. I see no reason to... I mean, some of this indentation could be a little prettier, but eh. That's one of those things that I would rather fix with scripting and tooling. That way people don't have to worry about it. I want this library to be as easy for contributors to get involved with as possible, just so that it's easy to grow. I've really tried to go as far as I can to make things be... Oh, that's what I wanted to look at. Oh, do the other ones all set cursor as well? Really? I'm surprised at that. I thought we had turned off cursor on most of those. Maybe I could be wrong. If that is feature parity with the other buttons, then I'm not gonna complain. But do we seriously set it? Look at that. Raised button has it set. Flat button has it set. Yeah, okay. That's okay, so that's feature parity, so I'm not gonna squawk there. Oh, the comment here on text block versus text element. So if we go and look at, let's see, 611 and 612. So if we come here, this thing's quickly getting out of hand. 611. Oh, that is not the right. This is the one we want. G611. So if we come in here, if we look at, and I should be able to F12 on this. Yes. Oh, so for those people curious what that pop-up was, let me show you. So if you come into your tools options and you search for Decompile, there's an option in here. So under the advanced options, enable navigation to decompiled sources, experimental. So this is yet one more awesome little thing that you can get. That pop-up that comes up at the beginning is just sitting there telling you, hey, I promise to not do anything bad while decompiling somebody else's code. But it can be really, really handy to jump into decompiled sources. So for people unfamiliar with decompiled code, with C# and any of the .NET languages, they compile down to something called intermediate languages, or IL. You'll see a lot of documentation reference either CIL, Common Intermediate Language, or MSIL, Microsoft Intermediate Language. Effectively, if you go to look at it, it looks like assembly code. or something very close to assembly code, but it's not. And the key difference there is that it's not, unlike normal assembly that's tied to a particular process or architecture, IL is not tied to a particular process architecture, and it allows the runtime to quickly interpret it and execute it on the appropriate architecture. But because IL has already kind of gotten that big translation hurdle down to something that's really close to it, it's pretty easy to do that translations at the runtime. When you do decompiled sources, it's important to note that when you load up that DLL, what you are getting is a DLL is a bunch of IL operations, and there's extra metadata and whatnot in there for the object structures and that kind of thing. But to actually get like method contents and whatnot out, all it has to work with is IL instructions. And so the decompiler has to try to reverse engineer what the compiler generated and try to almost guess in some cases what the original C# code looked like in order to get to that original IL, which is not an easy problem in some cases. In some cases, it's pretty obvious what the original code was. In other cases, it's like, well, this is not necessarily, you know, a simple one-to-one operation. There's a lot of things that a compiler can do to especially optimize code. Not necessarily attempting to obfuscate it, but some of it gets a little obfuscated in the process. So to be aware, when you're looking at this C# code from that, what this is the decompiler's best guess of what that original C# code probably looked like. So just be aware of that. All of that to say, let's go look at that. So if we go, we can test this. Text element, font. So if we drive here, you know, this guy gets us down into the abstract base class. Whereas this guy here, is actually going on text block framework element. Interesting. However, text element is the one that should get picked up in both cases. We will just test this suggestion before making it. We will confirm that it does in fact work. This would actually be a beautiful time for a UI test. Spin up a little UI test with all of the button types, set the font size on them, and make sure that that gets properly inherited. Those are the types of things that are really, really hard to unit test, but can be very effective UI tests to catch it. The pull request that I did at the very end of the stream last week, that one ended up failing because one of my UI tests flagged it because the change that I made to the structure caused the height of the combo box to change and it no longer matched the other fields, which was wonderful. That's exactly why we wrote that test, to make sure that those types of changes didn't accidentally creep in anymore, because people oftentimes build input forms, and it's very nice when your forms have this nice symmetry and everything lines up, and it gets very jarring when those measurements don't match. So we don't want that. Okay, it certainly looks like a 14, but let's just confirm that real quick. And actually here, rather than snoop, I'm gonna try to do it here. Boom. And then show live visual tree. Boom. So we'll try to use the Visual Studio ones and see how well I do. Wow, that's not. Okay, and that's as far as I'm gonna get. Something is horribly wrong. I don't know what, and Visual Studio appears to be losing its mind. So that's exciting. Okay, so we're just gonna put you to sleep and not use you anymore. Okay, Snoop, go and grab it because you just work. Okay, so really what I want to do is dive in here, text block, and I want to just confirm that font size is in fact 14. Perfect. See, that's all we wanted to do. We just wanted to confirm my suggestion before I made it. Everything else looks good. We'll just do comment for now. But I think this PR is looking really, really good, and this should make it in in plenty of time for the release. Okay, so let's go back. I think I'm going to avoid this for the moment. As exciting as some of these pull requests are, I want to go back here. I don't know what this is. I might need to look at that. Is it possible to do this? I'll come back to this. That's an interesting one, and this is not the first time this has come up. This is not the first time that has come up. And it is hard to say what the appropriate thing is. Okay. Let's look at this one, I guess. We'll just start top down. Data grid demo code, selection unit doesn't work. Okay, so this is certainly a bug. So let's take a look at this. So step 1, throw away all current work, reset to latest. So if for anybody who's interested in working on this library, I'm going to go through this process a little slower because this is probably worth doing. So what you do is when you get your local clone, obviously you open it with GitKraken because it's just awesome. No, GitKraken does not pay me to say that. I just love it. What you'll do is you'll click up on. Let's just walk through this real quick. This is probably worthwhile showing. So when you get to the main repository page, you'll see this little fork button, and you'll click the fork. And I'm in a bunch of orgs, and normally you'll see your personal account right at the top. You'll click on that and say, "Make me a fork." Once that's done, I'm assuming you've already got GitKraken installed and connected to your GitHub account. You'll come over here, you'll type in, material design. In Xaml toolkit, you'll give it a path, you'll clone the repo, and then you'll end up with something that looks kind of like this, albeit with a lot fewer things on the side here. I've just made a mess of my locals. And what you'll do is you will actually be on the master branch when you first start, because that is what is set as the default branch. What you'll want to do is then right click on this and hit create branch. And I just usually call it fix, and then I reference the issue number. You can name it whatever you want. It's usually best, though you can do PRs from your master branch, in general, it's best to create a new branch for every bit of work that you want to work on. Effectively leaving your master branch free of your custom changes and putting those on extra branches. That way it's easier to create pull requests later to merge them in. Now that we've got our branch, and right now we're currently perfectly in sync with master on this commit, we are then going to go and see if we can fix this. This sounds like something that needs to be fixed. Hello, Visual Studio. What are you doing? Wake up for me. Thank you. Okay, step 1. Let's reproduce the bug, because I think that is probably the most important step in any bug, is making sure it accurately reproduces. Or at least knowing what to do to reproduce it. Especially in this library, sometimes that is not always trivial. But I looked at this bug when it came in, and it was pretty trivial to reproduce, as I recall. So I'm going to go here, because I think this one accurately reproduces. So selection unit cell, and I think this is where I had done it before. So let's go to the grids one, and I'm going to just close Live Visual Tree because it is. And I'm going to close YouTube because you are both just getting in my way. Okay, and we are going to come down here, and actually I'm going to close the diagnostic tools because I am not doing diagnostics right now. I will open you when I need you. Okay, data grids. Okay, and let's go down and find the auto-generated columns one. So not the first grid. Grid numero dos. Okay, so selection unit full row. Okay, so we come over here and we go boom. This bug might be very easy. It is interesting that it's letting me do that it's letting me select in. I am a little interested in that. So let's compare this against the behavior of the previous one. So I believe that issue called out 313. Demo works well with 313. So let's go grab 313's demo app. So if we come over here, releases, and we can come down here, 3.2, 313, assets, demo app. So we can just go and download it and we can try it out. So I will say the pipelines are really good at putting in most of this stuff. It doesn't do the demo app automatically for me. I apologize. The number of times I've had a release go out where I have not uploaded the demo app, very, very sorry. So if you see me do a release and you don't see the demo app attached to it, feel free to poke me and ask for it, because it should get attached. There's no reason not to include it. It's just, it's a manual step, so it oftentimes, with as with many manual steps, gets forgotten because it was mildly difficult. I want to change that, but at the same time, I also want to switch from Azure DevOps pipelines into GitHub Actions. I need to poke the original author to get the appropriate secrets created for me, though, because all of the secrets that I need for like uploading NuGet packages have not been created in the repo. So that's no, we are doing grids now. So there is, oh, this one doesn't have the selection mode set. Well, that's fine. We can change that. Yay, Snoop. Okay, so come in here, and I want to go up to the data grid. We're going to come over here, and we're going to go with selection mode, or selection unit, full row. Oh, and it could be the selection mode that's messing with me. Yeah, so that is one interesting bit. So just putting these things here, and let's make it light mode. Or actually, dark mode is the new one, light mode is the old one. We'll just put those on. So just comparing these guys a little bit. This one, you click and it immediately puts you in edit mode, which is convenient, but does mean it takes a second click to get the row selected. So if you click on an editable text field, because it does feel weird that you can go into edit mode on one. Now I do wonder though if, so let's change that too. Or actually we can change this one in Visual Studio. Selection mode, single. I wonder if that extended mode is what's giving us that behavior. In fact, set in. Because normally you should be able to hold down Control. Okay, so we've got some selection issues going on. Because I should be able to hold down Control and get multiple selected. Or even if the first one's selected like here, right, I should be able to go Shift, click, and get them all. So this guy here, Shift, click, and I don't get them all. Oh, but I set this back to single, so back to extended. All right, so here, Shift, click. Oh, I guess it does work. Just turns out if you turn it off, it behaves as designed. It's just weird that I can get into here and get this guy there without being selected. So I think that bit there, so the bug has slightly changed since it was posted. But it is still relevant. So let's see if we can find what's doing that. So let's go WPF themes, data grid. And it's probably going to be something like the text box or something. This is the style. So what triggers you? Data grid assist, auto-generated editing text style. So that is probably what's doing this. Is one of these attached properties. So I'm gonna go with, we're hitting a begin edit call somewhere in here. So let's just grab breakpoints on all of them. Oh, so there's 2. Excellent. That one. Okay, so I would like to, I think what this is as simple as I was hoping for a I was kind of hoping to so let's see, this does a begin edit. This sends that. What is the entry point here? Allow direct edit without focus. So what if find all references? So this definitely does that. But should it? Element render size. So that's what's doing it. Okay, and I'm thinking let's look at the annotate on this real quick, because I'm curious. I remember an issue coming through about this, and I have a sinking suspicion this was let's see, 1954. Yeah, let's go before we go and just break this. Let's look at what this one used to be. Let's see, following refactoring. So I'm curious why it doesn't allow. Okay, so we're gonna try some things. I'm not sure. New mouse event args. I kind of want to do this for just a moment and see if this is what's causing the change in behavior. Now, obviously, the click isn't going to work, but I am curious if it is in relation to this toggle occurring or something else. Turn you off. Okay, so that seems to be what's doing it, and I kind of want to chase the mouse events here real quick. So if I go click, so preview mouse down goes, and then mouse down gets handled by the data grid cell, and that's what ultimately does this. Okay, so now I want to put the code back and see what change to that event hierarchy happens. I have a sinking suspicion that because this guy is now in an edit mode, and that was triggered from a preview event, which is tunneling, not bubbling, that the bubbling event now gets handled differently. That is my working theory. Oh, I gotta put this back. Events. Yeah, see? Very different event pattern because of that. Because of that. I'm wondering if I defer them. If that will make a difference. See if that does anything. And auto code button. Apply code. Oh, boo. Stop. So in case people missed it, that little fire icon is what used to be the edit and continue from previous versions. So it has made a resurgence, and quite oftentimes, depending on what you're editing and where, before the restriction was you had to hit a breakpoint, pause execution, make your changes, and then it would try, because you were already stopped, the IDE would attempt to update and inject the changes for you. Now you don't have any of that. You just write your changes and click the little fire button. And if it can apply them, it will, which is great. Just great, 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 great. Exactly what we love. So that's now very worse. Okay, so that's definitely not a good solution. So what if we do data grid selected cells, and I'm a little hesitant to do this and just blindly add it. I'm worried that, will you apply? No. Yeah, depending on what method you're in, I've noticed that the fire button works. It's very conditional on the method and where that method is. So certain methods and areas it works great on, other ones it just falls over. So I'm a little concerned with this. Simply because just blindly adding to the selection, I assume needs to be, more intelligent. Can I? Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm kind of thinking that. Okay, so we want to get the thing in to edit mode, but we want to get the selection to change as well. Where does this data grid cell come from? Because the possible selection modes that we have, I'm just a little hesitant to go through and do this based on selection when I don't know for certain that that is. Man, I just wish I could defer this until I knew that the. So let's go and look at this, because this guy apparently handled the mouse click, which means it's probably registering for the mouse event somewhere, or this container tracking dude might do it. What do you do? Container tracking, start tracking. That is not quite what I anticipated you being. Never mind, let's go back. Data grid cell. So there's got to be something in here about mouse something or another. Because you handled on any mouse button down thunk. Let me guess, you're an internal method. Handle selection for cell input. Yeah, that's... Oh, interesting. So if keyboard focus is already there... Okay. Okay, I got you. Data grid cell focus. Because I'm wondering... Yeah, because it just calls focus on the cell. I wonder if we can cheat it. Let's try this. This might be a slightly sneakier fix. So my thought is that if we focus on the preview event, so the tunneling event, when the bubbling event starts working its way back up, it'll already have keyboard focus and therefore toggle into edit mode, giving the same behavior, but now appropriately allowing the data grid to handle the right events for selection for us. That's the theory. Let's test it. There. I mean, it puts us back to previous behavior, which is good. But I mean, I could have gotten that without that. So if I go here, so let's see. So let's start with this. Okay, so clear all that out. So if I do click, mouse down on text blocks handled by data grid cell. I click again, mouse left down on text blocks handled by data grid cell. Begin edit by data grid cell. So just going to relaunch. I am curious if I can get it to work here. Okay. Data grid. No. So I guess what I really want to see is right here, because it's reliant on is keyboard focus within. So let's just thinks that's true. Oh, but is it selected? Is it selected? False. Let's try this one more time. One more time. I'm not 100% confident exactly how this is going to work, but we can see that the mouse button down handler here, the conditions that cause it to call begin edit are reliant upon keyboard focus being within and is selected being true. So those are the conditions we are attempting to replicate. Okay, so there. Okay, so this getter and the setter of this must be different values. Get, set. Okay. Huh? What is the call stack that got me here? Data grid on selected cells changed. Data grid on is selected change. So it's watching for the property changed on that. Okay. Select all. Okay, so data grid cell. The fact that this method is not exposed is really annoying me. Is there another option here? Is it bad? I'd really prefer to fix it. I'd really prefer it if it would work. Because I want it to go into so what's the end goal here? So on this click, what we would like to do is we would like begin edit to be invoked on it. We would like it to be selected. And we would like keyboard focus moved to it. We cannot directly set is selected. Selected value. Yeah, because I don't want to get into something where I'm managing the selection mode. That just sounds yucky. That just sounds really, really yucky. I assume you're just something simple. Yeah, sure. But where do you get used? Show me your usages. On selected cells changed. Well, that just... So yeah, so this is the invalid op that we're hitting right here. I guess the condition is really only selected row. But how do I get... This guy does a lot of work in here. A lot of work. So the tunneling event comes down. Let's go back. I'm wondering if maybe we can bounce the event. Let's go back. So ultimately, the difference in behavior comes from calling begin edit, which changes out the visual tree on us. Because data grid cells have both an editing mode and a not editing mode, or a read mode. And I think some of this is coming by the fact that we are handling a preview tunneling event. So I've used those terms a couple times now, but just to make sure everybody's on the same page. In WPF, there are routed events that come in a variety of forms. There's 3 routing modes, functionally 2 that get used everywhere, called tunneling and bubbling. Tunneling starts at the top, typically your window, and works its way down through your visual tree until it finds the target element. Bubbling events then turn around and bubble from that target element back up through the visual tree until they find somebody who's going to handle them. So typically your tunneling events are going to be the preview events, right? So in this case, preview mouse down, or preview left mouse button down. And then the bubbling event is going to be the mouse down event. So preview events are expected to be tunneling. Regular events are expected to be bubbling. And it kind of makes intuitive sense once you play around with it for a little bit. So, if we look at this guy here, if we go events and I go click. So, commit edit, begin edit. Routed command on data grid cell. Preview left mouse button down. Goes all the way down to the text block. We then get a mouse down on a text block. Which is very, very interesting. So if we go and look at see, this one here should have this guy. If we look at our events, I'm just going to clear them. When I go click, mouse down on text block, and then it bubbled up. See that? I'm wondering, because this one here had the mouse down event trigger, but for whatever reason did not bubble up. The only one who saw it was the text block. And I have to believe it's because the visual tree got swapped out on him. Yeah, it changed the visual tree so it's not there. I'm wondering if we should manually trigger that event. Similar to like what we did here. But I'm wondering if we go, whoop, that was meant to be a copy, not a cut. Try this again. Test event. But we do it on the data grid cell. Test event. Drop the break statement. We don't need that. And I'm wondering, let's see, mouse args source. I'm curious if we do the mouse down event on the cell, because I can't get to this condition, but I'm wondering if I can trick it by faking the extra event that I know needs to be there. Hey, that's looking better. Okay, let's check the events. I think that may have gotten us there. Let's find out. Let's find out. Okay, so we come and we click here. Okay, so these first two we already know about. Mouse down on data grid, handled by data grid. Mouse down on text box view, got passed all the way in. Mouse up. Yeah. Yeah, this is better. This is better. Okay, so let's do one more thing. Let's not change begin edit likely changes the visual tree. Restart event back at the cell. Because I'm thinking rather than doing this, we're going to come over here and do mouse args. Boy, I'm wondering if I need to do any of this, or if I can just repass mouse args. Let's try this. Because I'm thinking, so the tunneling event comes down. We get into this handler, which is inside of the cell. We call begin edit on the cell, which changes our visual tree, effectively removing us from the cell's visual tree content. I'm thinking if we just requeue the event and send it back down, we might Stack Overflow. We might Stack Overflow. This type of logic is a great way to Stack Overflow yourself. We're going to try it. No, so that one didn't do it. Okay, so that no bueno. Okay, so let's go back to what works. Okay. What is that timestamp? Let's pass that in, and I want to see if I change this up to preview mouse down event, because that's how we got into here, right? Is a preview mouse down, preview mouse left button down. I don't think left is actually an option. I think mouse down event, I believe, is the routed event that's being triggered. So let's see if it's the fact that I sent the same instance or the same event. Because we know if we send the mouse down event, that works. But it's weird to send a bubbling event higher up in the tree from a tunneling event that got down to us. It's a little weird. Okay, so that does not work. But we do know that mouse down event works. Trigger the mouse down event to cause the data grid to adjust selection. So I think we are going to do that. Probably rename this event, but I think this might be our fix. Oh, and it looks like we okay. Looks like we got interesting. Sorry, I just saw a new let's see. User has multiple shows not tag for us. This is got it. So we're gonna hold on to this. Sign myself because I want to review that. Okay, back to what. Not to get distracted. Not to get distracted. We are fixing bugs. Boom, boom, boom. If I control click, I get both highlighted. Excellent. Full row selected, full row selected, full row selected. Boom. That looks wonderful. Okay, so I want to come over here. I want to check. Actually, I just want to check on each of these. What are the selection modes set? You are also full row. So I kind of want to put you back to... Okay, so I want to reset my change to the demo app. Let's see here. So we have the demo app change. I want to put you back. And let's see here. We want to discard, discard, discard. That's just a white space change. We want to keep all of that. And we want to rename that from test. Let's call this that seems better. One last test. Great. Great. That is exactly what we want. Boom. That is what we want. Perfect. We're going to ship it. Okay. So, fixing. Let's go back to, let's see, 2363. Let's see, data grid selection should now properly select items. Should now have the click to edit and the selection. So let's see, fixes, pound, and issue number. So for those people not familiar with it, there's a few magical words in GitHub. So if you open a pull request with things like, I think it's fixes, resolves, I'd have to look. There's a few of them, but those types of words followed by pound and issue number, GitHub will automatically link those, and then when the pull request merges, it will end up automatically closing the issue for you, which is incredibly helpful. So create PR, we'll let that guy dance. Okay, so you are there, close Snoop. Let's go back to the milestone. Let's see, floating hint offset not working. We fixed that already. Expand hittable area reduced. This bug here. This one. Okay, so let's start. So once again, going back to the starting point. So I go back to my master branch, create a branch, fix, and then I will put in the issue number. Boom. And then step one, make sure the problem reproduces. So we're going to close all these out. Always make sure we can reproduce the problem first. And then we will go from there. Okay, so let's see, expander. So that is correct. So right, wrong, or indifferent. This used to be clickable, and now it's only down here. So let's start with, actually, let's just grab Snoop again. Well, let's just grab Snoop, because this is probably just as easy to find in Snoop as anything. Okay, so, and I think, so you'll note that when I'm hovering over this, my cursor's changing to the hand. So that gives me a very strong hint that I'm just hunting for whichever one of these elements as I go up through the tree has hands set on it. Interesting. So that has cursor hand set on it. So that's the toggle button. Oh, is this just a stupid case of background? Well, that's an easy fix. Okay, so this is very worthwhile noting. So in WPF, there is the default value of a property, and for background, the default is unset. So there's actually a static property on dependency property called unset value. Unset value and transparent, when it comes time to render an element, look identical. They are invisible. They are transparent. There's nothing there. But there's a slight behavior change between unset and transparent. And the difference comes with what is called hit testing. So hit testing is the process by which WPF takes your mouse cursor and goes looking to see exactly which element is under that point. Because that's not always a trivial thing to figure out. There could be transforms and weird layout things going on. And so it has to figure out, okay, which one of your elements is really on top of the stack and underneath the cursor. Hence, trying to figure out, if I were to drop the cursor straight down right here, what is it going to hit? With unset, it ignores the element and says, that one doesn't have it. Let's let it fall through to the next element below it. Whereas if it's transparent, whoop, the cursor stops and hits that element and determines it's on top. And based on this, it looks like the header site of the toggle button needs a background of transparent. So, this might be a stupid simple fix. Because I think I can just search for header... What was the name of that thing? Header site. Yeah, inside of the expander. Am I inside of expander? Toggle button. Hang on, this is the toggle button template. Header style template. Control template for the toggle button. So hold on, here's two toggle buttons. One has this. Oh, did we just miss one of the setters? I wonder if we just missed one of the setters. Collapse the visual tree. Okay, there's header site. See? There it is. Boom. There's header site. Where does its style get set? Let's clean up that extra white space on the end. Horizontal header style. Let's do this. There should only be a handful of places. Yeah, and it gets toggled. It gets toggled. Oh. So it gets toggled from vertical to horizontal. But both of those had a background set on them. Right? Horizontal, header, background, transparent. Wait, what? I am confused. Header, oh, but even though the style is set here, the content template is set here. wait, that shouldn't matter because this is setting the template property, not the content template property. Something's off. Something's off. The running code and the other code are not lining up. What style is being applied here? Horizontal header style. That is the style being applied here. But if I look at the background of being set on this element, oh, the value source comes from parent template. Oh, somebody in here is mucking with the background. Oh, look at that. Look at that. So it doesn't matter what's in the style because this is being set directly. That's the bug. So, to be clear, in WPF, when you're doing styles, there is basically an inheritance hierarchy of how styles relate to one another. So, for example, if we look at, do any of these have a based on? You don't have a based on. You don't have a based on. Bad example. Go over to the buttons real quick because buttons show this much better. Let's see, target type. So, for example, these styles here. This style is based on this other material design raised button style. And so because there's this inheritance hierarchy, for a lack of better words, the assignment to a property that is closest to the element wins. So in this case, these ones are closer to the actual assignment than the ones in the base style. So they get to effectively override. However, if there is an assignment directly on the element, this is always going to be closest. So this one wins. The only time where that closest gets a little weird is when you start looking at triggers instead of templates. Because triggers down here, these things don't care where that assignment occurred. They don't care whether it's directly on the element or it's in a style on the element. When those triggers fire, these things, darn it, they are setting that property. Whether you like it or not, they are going to change it, which can make control template triggers a real pain in the neck to override because they don't really have a good mechanism for doing so. You can either dump them or keep them. There's not really a mix and match type scenario, or at least not an easy way to do it. There's plenty of ways to manipulate the template at runtime. Just not great. So what we have here though is we've got this background here, this header background that was added, a seemingly benign change, but because previously this style was doing it, when we added this header background attached property, it ended up causing problems for us. So what really needs to change, I'm going to leave these styles here. No, I should drop these. Yeah, we should drop these. These are not, well, if anybody's using them elsewhere. What are the odds people are using these styles elsewhere? We'll leave them for now. Is this being used anywhere? It is. Okay, so we'll let that slide too. Okay, so regardless though, what we would like to do is not rely on that. So I think the problem is this guy really just needs a default. So setter property, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to grab this little guy. Value gets transparent. Okay, so adding that little guy in broke it. But putting this back in should give it an appropriate default. And if somebody wants to override the header background to put in something else, you are welcome to do so. I would just advise you not to put it into unset. that would be a bad choice. Expanders are what we're doing now. There we go. Now you can click the whole thing. Perfect. Perfect. Let's see. Fixing clickable area of the expander. That is not how you spell clickable. That's not how you spell expander. Actually it is. Fixes pound. What branch are we on? 2364. So branch name's right up here. And we'll push that beast. And oh, I suppose we could just do a... Is there a nice, easy right-click create pull request from here? Start pull request. The only thing is I like the GitHub flow. So the one nice thing is you can come down here and just go whoop. Then we'll slap this guy in the milestone, create pull request. And this guy now fixes, so we will squash merge that guy in. Delete our source branch, which is great. Which is also why doing it on your master branch isn't great. Because if you do it there, you probably don't want to click delete source branch. Okay, so this guy's going to kick off, and then that will hopefully merge. Okay, so I think we're starting to get down to just fixing the other WADI bits. So this one here, that one we just did. So I'm going to show this one off. This is one I've been working on. So I've been trying to get my latest version of Xaml test in and working. And for an unknown reason, it's failing on the pipeline. And I'm not clear why. So for what it's worth. Something is not quite working. This guy here is just dumb. There is a window that is getting popped on the build agent from some provisioner process that is hovering over my window, preventing my mouse hover cursor. Which, very annoying. Very, very annoying. We might work on this one next because we're quickly running out of ones to work on. And I kind of want this XAML test update is blocking this one. And the testing for this one. So this might be the next priority to do. So we'll wait. We'll let this guy roll. I think we're going to take a crack at this. I thought about trying to fix it in the XAML library or the XAML test library, and I think I'm just going to go around the library. So let me show you what I mean. So the nice part is when this guy runs, or when my UI tests run, on a test failure, it takes a screenshot, which when you're doing UI testing, that's gold, because then you can actually see what was the point of it. So in this case, the test that failed was it's trying to test that when you hover the mouse over a button, that the button appropriately changes. And here is the screenshot of the failure. Yeah. Does not make me happy. This guy took focus, sat on top. Jerk. So, in the interest of fixing this, I believe what I'm going to do is, so let's switch back over to this branch. Because I've been hacking on this branch for a while. So update XAML test. So let's go back to update XAML test. We'll jump back here. We'll pull up our master to get the latest on there. Okay, so there was a bunch of changes, all around breaking changes I did in my XAML test library. So I figured It's always good to be your own first user. That way you can feel the pain of all the upgrades. And if it's painful for me, it means it's going to be painful for people who didn't write the library. So my initial thought here is inside of this, I have a test base where on a lot of these things, it goes through and does things like create window with or create window with user control or similar. And you'll note that it does all of this. And I'm kind of thinking I'm just going to go and cheat a little bit and do something like topmost gets true. Right. So if people are unfamiliar with that property, what this ends up doing, so if we come over here to this, and we just do it with the demo app real quick as a quick demonstration. So if we go topmost, oh, it's lowercase m. Should fix that. Top. My library will blow up on that. Now, if we launch this, what's going to end up happening is this is very similar to how, I'm trying to think of a good example. Old school task manager. How that's effectively working. So inside of the desktop window manager, there is sort of similar to the WPF adorner layer, where there's always a layer of things that can sit on top of everything else. So there's kind of this two-tiered hierarchy, if you will, of your windows. You've got your topmost windows, and then you've got all the peon windows beneath that, right? So those things are all floating. So even though this window, the Visual Studio window, has focus now, the demo app, because it's topmost, gets to win. And I think rather than trying to have XAML tests work around this, I think this is going to be a case of domain knowledge, and I'm just going to set topmost on my window and be done with it. Which seems like the simplest fix overall. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to come up here, because there's two create window. Yeah, we're going to do this. We're just going to always run those in topmost. Actually, I guess we've got one more down here. Set all of those to topmost. Now, I have edited both the demo app, and I would like to not include that change. So we'll discard that, stage the rest, check the changes, true, true, true. Setting topmost on Windows to prevent ADO provisioner from getting on top, because provisioner. I want you to know I had to take a test the other day that claimed that in terms of intelligence, my spelling skill is average. I significantly doubted the quality of the test, because for me to be an average speller means that there has to be people out there worse than me. And I haven't met very many of those people. And the few that I have are all developers. Developers overall are really not great spellers. We're pretty bad at it. Okay, so we're going to let this guy go. So this one, pipeline passed. Huzzah, squash merge, squash merge. Booyah. Okay, so there is more fixes in and done. Okay, so this guy is now going to chug, and we're going to see what goes on. I do wonder, because there was a commit here. Maybe it was a test that I ran where no, there are a few in here where I intentionally disabled some problematic tests. We might need to go back and re-enable these if this works. I don't need that anymore. Go away. So if this ends up working, that will fix that. So we're gonna let that guy run for now, and let's check what else is still outstanding. Wait, what? Oh, this is not milestone limited. Okay. It's like there is stuff here that I am not expecting. Okay, and so this one here, this is expected to be built on top of the other changes. Or no, this is not. This is just straight up broken. This is legitimately broken. And we need to address this. But I wanted to address this on top of the other changes. So, let's come back over here. What was the fix 2362? So let's find that branch. 2362. So this is... Oh, so this one I already did rebase, but I just didn't push the change because this failed. So let's take my local 2362, rebase it on this. Okay, that should be a little bit cleaner. That's the fix for it. But we want to wait to push until we confirm that the Xaml test change is in fact good. Because you will note the fix for this is included inside of that. One of my coworkers is being hysterical and is asking what kind of Stream Deck is everyone purchasing. I may actually go through. Do I have it with me? I do. Okay, show and tell time. So, I actually made my own. So I got one of these. That's really funny because my green screen is making... So those transparent buttons, yeah, those are actually painted green. So you can only kind of read it. So I purchased this programmable 9 key. And then I took my 3D printer and printed custom keycaps because that was just fun. And the initial intent with this was, through my work, we use Toggle to manage our timesheets and keeping track of our billable hours. And now, I know there are apps out there for Toggle, and I am sure any of those would have been much easier options than what I did. I arguably took the hardest possible thing. Well, which one? Let me grab a link if anybody is interested. So there are... I got to go back to my old Amazon orders, and I'll find it. So what I ended up doing was writing a little CLI app, which I published, so I can show that to you here. But this is what I ended up getting, is one of these little suckers. And I was contemplating writing a blog post on it. I don't know if people will find this interesting, because most of the effort in doing this was somewhat of a learning experience for me. And it was... Again, probably the hardest way to solve the issue of how do you start and stop your time on an online timer. There are definitely easier options. So I programmable 9 key, custom keycaps, and then I programmed each of these keys to the upper level function keys. So like F13 on up. And you'll note that on some of the buttons, there's like multiple little icons on them. And the intent there was these bottom little 2 and 3 toggles. This little programmable 9 key has 3 layers on it. And so I programmed those 2 and 3s to toggle between the different layers. And so I have one layer to do OBS streaming and toggle my scenes and whatnot. I have another layer to do my toggle timesheet stuff. And then I've got another layer for doing my music, because when you're programming, you got to listen to music, and sometimes it's important to, skip to the next song or mute or whatever. And so I programmed all of those things together, and then I took auto hotkey is what is listening for the upper level function key codes, and then it's just invoking my CLI app. So if people are interested, What did I call it? Time logger. That's, yeah. So if anybody is interested, this is the little CLI app for interacting with Toggle. This is not an advanced thingy, and I should probably rename this, because when it came time to publish it as a .NET Global tool, I had to poke around for available names, and one of my coworkers suggested the name Cadence, which worked rather nicely. So this is really one of those, this tool was built for me for one specific purpose. Pull requests welcome. I'm happy to accept them. One of my other coworkers was playing around with it and submitted a few things to go through and do it, but it accepts time entries, and I can then manage my Toggle timesheet. Oh, look at that. The pipeline worked. Yes. Okay, so topmost may have been what was biting me on all of those past runs. Okay, so I would like to go back and look at the skip one. So let's take a look. Skip. So I disabled a few tests because they were causing failures, and I wasn't sure whether they were related to, I wasn't sure what was causing them. And I was annoyed, and so I started doing bad things. And I think that the doing bad things part was probably what was problematic, because all of these tests worked on the previous version of Xaml test, and I didn't make any major changes. Okay, those are just icon bits. Those are link calls. Yeah, I think it was just those 3 tests. So let's see. Re-enabling skip tests. Perfect. Re-enable, push. Cancel. This is a good lesson. So I just did this change, and I did it on my change that is designed to fix the floating offset, not on my update XAML test branch, which is where I want it. So this is a great example of when you mess up in Git, how should you fix it? So in this case, what I really want to do is take this commit right here and put it over on this branch. So what I'm going to do is switch to the branch that I want to be on first. And then I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to just cherry pick this commit. And then it says, do you want to immediately commit it? Yes, please. So in terms of Git, the cherry pick command just goes through and says, make me a new commit with these exact same deltas. Because a commit is just a set of deltas or changes that you've made to various files. So when you cherry pick, it says, okay, reach over there, grab those deltas, and then just replay those on my current branch and automatically create a commit for me. And in this case, recreate with the exact same message and all that jazz. These 2 commits are completely different IDs. You can see the commit hash here. So 2 different commits. They just happen to contain the exact same deltas. So we're going to push this up and let that go. And now the question is, I've still got this bad commit back on this other branch, this guy here. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to take this branch and reset back 1 commit. And in Git, you'll note that the commit just disappeared. So this is sort of like pruning a tree. When you move your branch pointer back, anything that doesn't have anything else pointed to it just gets dropped. So you can imagine if you're trimming a tree and you're standing on a branch and you cut off the branch you're standing on, you fall. In this case, if you are trimming your Git branch back, anything that's not held up by any other branches, it just gets to fall. Okay, so that should get that going, and hopefully, oh, and actually, let's go back here, and I would like to, because now my fix 2362 is based on an old commit, not on the new commit, and I want it to include this change. I just don't want that change on this branch directly. So what we will do is we will right-click and rebase. So rebase is definitely one of my preferred ways of doing this. Some people like to do merges. I just find that the rebase leaves me with a nice, prettier tree. So if you can wrap your head around it, I prefer it. So in Git, the base commit is, if you follow this line down, it's the one at the bottom. right? The base or the foundation of anything is the one at the bottom. So in this case, if we just follow the blue line down, this guy down here is my base commit. I would like the base of these 3 commits to be this one, which is conveniently where this guy is. So if I just right click on him and say rebase my fix2362 onto update XAML test, it's going to change the base and do it. And when you run the rebase command, what Git ends up doing is it takes all of your commits, because Git knows the relationship between all of your branches, or at least it can derive the relationship between all your branches, and it will replay your commits one at a time. Because if we go and look at these commits, this thing shows, let's see, authored. Oh, I guess GitKraken doesn't show it. If you look at the commit on the command line, you'll end up seeing the modified date as today, which starts to get a little weird for some people, because the dates on a Git commit are probably when they happened. It's just with Git, we get to be time travelers, and we can make time be whatever we want, which is awesome. Awesome. I use Git when I teach at the local university. And one of the things that we discussed while doing that is, well, what happens if a student, tries to cheat a deadline by adjusting the timestamps on their Git commit? And ultimately what we came to the conclusion of is, if students spend enough time to learn Git to figure out how to do that, they deserve it. So don't tell my students that. That would be bad. But it's one of those, if they want to learn Git well enough to understand, rebases and mucking with the timestamps and changing authors and all that kind of fun stuff, more power to them. There's also a fun tool. Don't recommend using this in any production environment, but Git blame someone else. Yes. Do they get bonus points if one of the instructors authors the commit? Oh. Haven't had that happen, but that might be kind of cool. I will say, every quarter, there's always at least one student that does something that absolutely amazes me, where I end up looking at it and going, huh, didn't know I could do that. So, students are remarkably ingenious. Doesn't always work out in their favor, but they're remarkably ingenious. So, if you are interested, this lovely little tool here of going through and saying, I would like to change this. Yes. I think that's what should happen. I think that's exactly what should happen. Yeah. So if hypothetically you would like a convenience tool, you can also do, so this Git blame someone else is actually, you can do it with just straight Git commands as well. You can go through, find a commit, go through, adjust all of the data in the commit if you want, and then force push. That's all it takes. All this tool does is automate away all of that and making it very easy, so that it works rather easy. His fake commit here. Oh, this is also, so this tool here is an excellent reason why yes. This tool is also a reason why you should set your Git up with PGP keys, so that your commits can be signed, because then it's very hard for somebody to just fake that it was you, because they would have to be able to sign the commit as you. Now, how often is that important? That's the level of importance. It's good if you want to ensure authorship. Did this pass already? I was going to say, that was going to be remarkably fast if it did. Let's go and pop this guy open. It's chugging right along. I may have to circle back onto some of this XAML test stuff. I'm very close to actually being done with a full release of it. I don't know how much is left. Yeah, so this is the only thing that I had tagged left to do, and I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure if this is actually an issue that I care to solve or not. So right now, the save screenshot method always just screenshots the primary monitor, which for build agents and pipelines is fine because those things aren't going to have multiple screens. Not a big deal. But when testing locally, if like me, you have multiple screens, always screenshotting the primary monitor is not helpful if the app is running on monitor 2. So I think this is the last thing I want to do is actually look up what screen the app is running on and maybe screenshot that instead. That might be a little better. The alternative is screenshot all the things. And I don't know. That just feels yucky. Just blindly capturing a screenshot of all the monitors, because some apps do that where you take a screenshot. Look, heck, your print screen button in Windows. You take a screenshot and it just captures all the windows, all the places, and you get way more than you need. Oh, look at that. Look at that, it passed. Hallelujah. Okay, we can start merging some stuff. Booyah! Okay, let's get some of this rolling. So squash merge. And then we're going to come over here. This fix 262. Let's pull up on master. And then we're going to rebase you over here onto master now. So you can go here. What? Abort rebase. What happened? Let's see here. Oh, so now we're going to delete the files that I aborted. I apparently did not get my master pulled up all the way before rebasing. Okay. Now rebase. Why am I now getting conflicts? That's the one I want. Save. Let's see. One of these is going to have topmost. That one. Oh, it's because of the order of the commits. Oh, yuck. Well, this is easy. Always just take the side from master. That's how we're going to resolve the commits. So you'll note it ends up saying skip because rebase conflicted. What? Okay, abort rebase. Okay, so let's do some fancy stuff while we're in here. So squash U3 down. I really would like to, oh, okay, so here's what we'll do. So I've got these guys down into a single commit now. I just need to create branch temp. You'll work great. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is grab my fix 2362. 2362. Oh, stop it. Visual Studio, go away for a minute. I know you're going to be unhappy with me. 2362. There's that branch, and I want its base over here. So I'm going to right-click, reset hard, which says just move the branch, which is a great way to saw the branch off that you're standing on. Not a great experience. But because I left this temp branch pointed at it, this commit doesn't fall off. There's still something pointed to it, which means I can then reach back across and say cherry pick that guy right on across. Whoop. Now my 262 branch is exactly where I want it to be. Force push, and it should be all the things that I hope it to be. Okay, now that I'm happy, delete the temp branch and let that commit fall off. The update XAML test branch is local only, which is what the little computer symbol means. This little other icon up here indicates the various remotes. So because this is only the computer symbol, I know it's a local only branch, which is usually when I You'll note sometimes I leave myself backup branches down here, which is no longer necessary. Okay, and in fact, we can start to clean up a lot of these. Actually, I don't think I need any of you local. Delete all the local branches. Occasionally, I just have to declare bankruptcy and throw away all my local branches. If it was valuable, I pushed it somewhere, and I won't lose it. But if I didn't push it, couldn't have been that valuable. Okay, so that guy goes there. Okay, and then this guy is building. This is not the milestone again. I am an idiot. There we go. Okay, so this guy is building. This guy is just a couple demo app things, so he can kind of go whenever. This floating offset will get resolved by this, which means this combo box thing is the last one out there. And there is an existing branch for this. 2340. Let's see, where did I put it? 2340. This guy down here, was this relevant? Yeah, so let's go to this 2340. And I kind of want to... I left a stash for it, so we're just going to pop that stash onto it. UI test. I think this test is relevant, but I was holding off until I had some of the Xaml test stuff fixed, because this was reliant on some mouse interaction that didn't previously exist. But I want to take this branch and rebase it on master. So let's bring him up to speed. Where is the rebase button? There we go. Boom. So now we got this push, force push, force push. Okay, so now latest stuff is out there on Origin. We should be good. And I think that's going to be the last thing remaining to go through and fix. Yeah, and this is kind of a weird setup to begin with, because it's a combo box embedded in a menu, which is not exactly common, but it is a legitimate bug. So as soon as this guy finishes, which I'm assuming he will now, it shouldn't be that hard. I think I may wrap it up for the night. Since I am at my 2-hour mark. I don't know if people are interested either. So another one of my interests that I don't know if I've talked about much on stream is I very much enjoy board games. So I've been contemplating dragging my computer into my gaming room and streaming either board game playthroughs, or I've been dabbling in designing my own board games. So I don't know if that kind of content is something people are interested in. Drop me a comment, let me know. It's a bit of an effort to drag my machines around, because I've only got the one machine that's really capable of streaming, and I don't really have a network cable line set up for my gaming room yet. But it's something I've contemplated doing. It might be interesting. You might be forced to actually watch me interact with the rest of my gaming group and see what that is like. Could be good. Could be boring. I have fun, and that's usually how I measure how good a stream is. If I have fun, then it couldn't have been that bad of a stream. Even if it's just me talking to myself for a couple hours. As long as I had fun. That's what's important. Okay, come on. Go. Go, DevOps. Go. Run the tests. Do all the things. Make me happy. As part of doing that, one of the things I was playing with over the weekend, so this is complete derail, has nothing to do with this, I'm just waiting for the PR to finish, but Tabletop Simulator. So if people haven't seen this, this guy, yeah. So this is a game on Steam, I put it in quotes, because it's more or less a physics engine for tabletop gaming. and you can go through and build out various games, and depending on the amount of effort you want to put into it, quite advanced stuff can be done in there. So I was trying to figure out how much of a like the games I was designing, how much I could write a script to convert from my source files into Tabletop Simulator stuff. So generating images with decks and hosting those things on Azure and all of that fun jazz that goes around with it, because most of the directions online are like, oh yeah, you just need to host the files online, you know, get Dropbox or whatnot. I'm like, no, I'm a developer. I have Azure at my disposal. We're using Azure. So simple storage account and have some fun. So spent a lot of time, we'll say, learning, and still very much learning. I've been trying to figure out custom models and how to get those things working, because I am not great at it. Tinkercad is my skill level at the moment, though I've been messing with Fusion 3D and OpenCAD, trying to learn as best I can. And there's a wealth of information. It's just, there's a wealth of information. Ooh, look at that. Goes green. Goes green. Woot, woot, woot. Boom. Yeah. Interesting that you listed Betrayal at House on the Hill, where the game fans out. So my gaming group has mixed opinions of Tabletop Simulator. Specifically, so it's really great for games that have large setups and complicated setups, because a lot of that you can just kind of automate away a lot of the bookkeeping, which is great. The one thing we found that doesn't work well, that we didn't like about it, was games that heavily rely on social interaction, such as we play Twilight Imperium a lot. And so there's a lot of negotiating and, you know, we'll say social backstabbing that goes along with that game. And it gets a little weird, because when you're playing in person, I mean, you can kind of lean over and kind of try to have a private conversation with the person next to you, but ultimately everyone can see that you're doing that. And so it changes the dynamic a little bit when you can kind of just start private messaging somebody on, you know, whatever chat service you're using, Discord, Teams, Skype, whatever. And so you can kind of start to get those weird side chats. And we found that for better or worse, it changes that dynamic of the game. And so games feel different on Tabletop Simulator versus in person. Whether good or bad it kind of depends on the game, but we did find that social interaction piece was a very, very different feel online. So, and at least for Twilight Imperium, we very much liked in person. It feels better in person. Yeah. So, for what it's worth. Okay, so I think the good news is that means most of this is done. Excuse me. Okay, so the 4.2 release is close to being done. Very, very close. I want to get this last bug wrapped up. And I don't know if anybody wants to take my branch and roll with it. Feel free to do so. It's just a matter of making sure that this thing actually works. I'm trying to remember exactly. It's now been, hang on. Let me pull master. I'll rebase it one more time, because I'm getting really good at this. Boom, force push. There we go. Because on the theme that I started doing, there's sort of this weird back and forth with the combo box, and I don't know the best way to address some of the issues, because there's both the regular combo box where you click, pick a drop down item, and then there's the editable combo box, which makes this layout a little bit different. And so the change here, changes that layout of whether something's in the visual hierarchy or not, and so it makes those routed events, like what I was mentioning earlier, different. For better or worse, it makes them different and changes the behavior. So that is the root cause of the bug. And there is a test that is pretty close to being what we want. And this here was all this commented stuff, all these task delays should be able to go away now. There was a bunch of stuff in there about animations and tries and all that garbage. I believe Xaml test has now handled most of that with appropriate logic, so should take care of that. But I do want to get that guy fixed, and then this one will probably get wrapped up fairly quick. The comments on here were pretty benign. Plus, I think these buttons look really nice, in my opinion. So these will make a nice addition, to the library. So I think with that, I am probably going to say thank you for joining. Happy coding, and I'll see everyone next time.